The views expressed by the hosts are entirely their own and in no way represent the thoughts or intentions of the original author.
This podcast is a discussion, shared to spark thought and conversation on the characters and themes of this novel.
The interpretations presented in this podcast are just a few of many possibilities. Listeners are encouraged to read along and share their own analysis of the text.
Though the hosts speak mostly within the constraints of this book, series spoilers may be discussed with or without warning.
Explicit language, as well as themes of sex, violence, abuse, depression, self-harm, and death will recur throughout this podcast. Listener discretion is advised.
If you are enjoying the podcast, check out our Patreon for more exclusive content. You can find us at patreon.com/BookTok for BookTok. Welcome to BookTok for BookTok with Jack and Amy, a literary podcast where we deep dive into the writings of your favorite novels. This winter, we are hosting a book club while we prepare our 10-part literary analysis of Sarah J. Maas's Throne of Glass.
This is Jack.
And I'm Amy.
And each week we'll discuss one book from our winter book club roster. By using our literary background, we will provide our flash analysis of each book, as well as discuss listener thoughts.
This week, we're discussing Lightlark by Aster. So let's start with our new tradition. Describe Lightlark in 10 words or less.
Oh, no. I was thinking about this in the shower, and then I thought, no, let this be spur of the moment. And now I regret everything. Okay. A YA novel that deals with darker themes about women.
Nice.
Pull this out of my ass every time.
I do too. I don't think about this beforehand. Okay, let me try. Pleasantly surprised with overall novel, but I didn't expect much.
Nice. I just high-fived myself. Yay. You can't be here with me, so I high-five me. Okay, as always, we are going to preface this that we listened to this book. We did not read it. We have not read the other books in this series. We know nothing. And I did not spoil it because this is one that I would love to go back to.
Okay. I actually agree. And
You seem surprised about that.
I do, because I remember Lightlark having some BookTok drama associated with it.
Oh no. Is there? Crap.
So my recollection is that, and I think we have a live recording about this somewhere in the past, Aster promoted Lightlark before she ever wrote Lightlark, and she went viral. And like other authors would post like, here's the aesthetics, here's some quotes, and it got people really, really hyped. And in the process, she got a book deal. And when the book actually came out, a lot of the things that she may have advertised to generate hype were not necessarily in the book.
Interesting.
That's my recollection. I could be associating it with the wrong book.
Yeah.
But you were the one who told me this.
I have great news for you. I remember nothing. I cannot be held accountable for memories or past me. Well, if there is controversy on this book, sorry guys, we won't talk about it because we don't know. We don't remember
know for sure.
No. This is one of those books that I've seen around in the sphere. You know what I mean? It's one of those that it's in the periphery. It's on the TBR. Actually, this is another book that I was like, oh, this was written in what, 2018, 2016? I don't know why.
It was like 2022, right? Or 23.
Yeah. And then the third book just came out. I know you said last week, aka yesterday when we recorded. I want everyone to know this is November 17th. Like I think this doesn't come out until later.
December 24th.
Oh my God. Yeah. We are so far in the past. So I hope nothing bad happens. Knock on wood. Joy. Anyway, so you said something yesterday / last week where you were like, I think that Once Upon a Broken Heart prepared me for this. I am not entirely sure because this book, even though it's YA, has the recipe of everything that I love. And one, our main heroine, Isla, she is 19. She's experienced life. She's a little bit more seasoned. She's been not brutally, but like put through the ringer when it comes to growing up and having to be a leader. And she's also someone who knows that great sacrifice is going to be expected of her one way or another. Oh my God. So like that already, I'm like, oh, thank God we have like slightly more mature themes. And then you go into a trial, love a trial, sucker for a trial. And I can't wait for us to talk about this. A good old-fashioned triangle. Love triangle.
Yeah.
Oh my god, bring me back. Steph and Damon, yes, please.
Yeah, it's so funny you say that. Let's start with triangles.
Alright, we're starting with the triangle. Let's start big.
I was gonna say, let's start geometry. That's what we're doing here.
Oh, I failed.
So, with stories like Sarah J. Maas's Court of Thorns and Roses, and Sarah J. Maas in general, we became used to the pattern of the first love interest is not the mate, and you find female main characters mate later on in the series. And we've seen that pattern repeated in other books as well.
And I would argue that pattern replaced love
Replaced
triangles.
love triangles. I
Yeah.
agree. I think after things like Twilight, Vampire Diaries,
Hunger Games.
exactly, people got sick of the love triangle because it was
Yeah.
predictable,
Yeah.
right? But now that we're accustomed to this predictability of
First love interest isn't the main love interest, yeah.
exactly, it's refreshing to go back to a good old love triangle. And for the first time
I don't
ever,
know who.
I didn't know which one I preferred.
Same. There was never a love triangle where I don't know who I'm supporting. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, even when it
exactly.
came to Steph and Damon, Vampire Diaries, I knew I was a Damon girly from day one. I
Yeah.
was like, he is problematic. Even with Edward Jacob, even with Hunger Games, like, I always knew who I was going to support. And I think the author sets you up for that.
Mm-hmm.
Even now, I could not tell you which one I want. It makes me giddy because I'm like, ooh, someone's gonna get their heart broken. One of the issues I had with the love triangle was answered at the end, and I freaking love that because we see Isla and Arlo. We see them fall in love, right? We see these moments between them. And I kept thinking like I love what I'm seeing here. I love like the journey that they're on. But then there
Mm-hmm.
were these intense moments with Grimm, and I never felt like it was so like truly earned because I kept thinking,
Mm-hmm.
the heat, the passion kind of came out of nowhere. He's really into her and she's just like, I mean, I get it, hot guy, who can resist? And that was my one major critique, I think, throughout the whole thing. And then the fact that it was answered with that plot twist, I
Yeah.
was just sitting there thinking, "Thank you, Alex. You did it. You surprised me."
Yeah. I was genuinely surprised. I didn't think it was the twist that it was. I thought it was going to be like a past life thing
Yeah, yeah.
or a premonition thing. So I was
A fated mate thing.
right, fated mate. I think the reveal at the end does a lot of work and it wasn't a cop out. It made sense and it did decide for me which side of the triangle I was going to support, just
Really?
like it does for her.
So you side with
Arlo.
Arlo. You side with Arlo then.
I think so. Like, can you forgive someone for taking away something without your consent?
I know. Well, no, I mean, and that's the thing where I love this so much. Like, I love Arlo. Like, it really was an exciting thing seeing how much he resisted her, how much
Mm-hmm.
he did care for her. I did not get angry puppies to love her.
I did
I
not
with
either.
with them. I got he really did not want to be near her. He did not want to be
Mm-hmm.
interested in her. Against every instinct, against everything, he fell for her. But then at the same time, you see the devotion that Grimm has for Isla. You see how much he cares for her and everything that he did. Like, yes, he took away her memories. I'm not agreeing with this, but he did it because he loves her and wants a chance. And how hard it must have been to not just see her fall in love with Arlo, but
Mhm, mhm,
encourage it,
mhm.
just for the wish and the chance that she'll remember her memories and come back to him.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love all of it.
I know. I'm
I
just so happy.
I think this is the first love triangle ever where not only could I go either way,
Yeah.
I want to continue to endure the triangle.
Same. Because, like, not we know, I'm guessing that in book two, we're going to get a lot of Grimm and we're going to be like, oh, but like maybe we want her to be with Grimm. Maybe that's where they fall. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
just guessing that that's where it's going to go. And I want that torture. And then in my mind, I'm like, why not both?
Well, yeah, why not?
Because
Is
it's YA.
it YA? I mean, I feel like it's YA, but I don't know that it was intended to be YA.
It's the same thing as Ruthless Vows, right? It's categorized as
Mm,
YA. I wouldn't personally categorize it as YA.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I fucking love that shit. Sorry. I eat it up breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
So let's talk about betrayal, because betrayal is a huge theme in this book.
And it's also one of the comments that our listeners said that one of
Oh,
their
oh,
favorite things that they love in here are the plot twists and betrayals.
yes. I will say I doubted Celeste from the beginning,
Ooh,
but
okay.
the more the trials went on, the more I was like, no, maybe she is good.
Uh-huh.
Maybe the betrayal's going to come from someone else. And
Yeah.
I was hurt by the Arlo betrayal. I
Yeah.
was hurt by the Grimm betrayal. And then when you discover who Celeste really is, I was like, yep, called it. But I also doubted myself the entire way.
I never questioned her.
You never questioned her.
I was like, "Oh, it's me and Amy."
I was going to say, never the same way you never questioned me.
Yeah, like, if you wanted to betray me, like, I'd be like, "Okay,
Yeah,
go
yeah.
ahead."
Well, and I think what's so great about it is the idea of found family has completely turned itself on its
Yeah.
head
Yeah.
between her two mentors and Celeste.
Yeah.
I've got goosebumps. Like, I can't imagine you and Randall and Nicole and Emma betraying me. Like,
Yeah.
that's devastating.
I'm not a fan of it. I don't like this hypothetical where I was part of that situation. Okay, so what I loved about this, I don't know, people are going to be like, that's an interesting take, not what I was expecting from you, Jack. We talk a lot about female friendships, right? That's
Hmm.
one of the biggest things that we really like to point out and discuss. And I love Celeste because it was a great example of loyalty, of female friendship, of being
Hmm.
able to call each other out and just, saying, hey, you need to pull your shit together, or hey, you're really looking in places that doesn't make sense. But
Hmm.
at the end of the day, they supposedly loved and supported each other. Now, you would think that I'd be sitting here thinking, wow, I can't believe that the one female friendship we lost. I actually loved it because, like, the original curse wasn't because a woman lost a man, it was
Hmm.
because two best friends hurt one another, or one hurt
Yeah.
the other.
Yeah.
And that to me, even though you have the only main female friendship here is a betrayal. The theme is something that hurts the most is when your best friend hurts you. And that's where I'm like, okay, like beautiful, love it. It goes back to men ain't shit. You know what I mean? Like it goes back to
Yeah.
these friendships that we build and we create are the most important things, the found family.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like up until the big reveal, the relationship with Celeste and Isla is very genuine. I think reflects female friendship in a way that I agree with, that I have experienced myself. And that's what makes it beautiful. The ultimate twist at the end doesn't negate the beauty of that friendship. And in my
Yeah.
mind, Aurora is reliving her friendship with Lark prior to her own betrayal. So I thought it was beautifully done. And I agree. Men ain't shit
Yeah.
is the best part of it.
Yeah, it's like, hey, it sucks that there was betrayal there, but at the same time, like at the end of the day, it's women and friendship that matters the most.
Yeah, I like that, if you want to call it this book's quote unquote original sin, the
Yeah.
original sin is betraying your best friend.
And I love that. I love that so much because with the whole found family, right? And then we go back to her guardians, or
Mm-hmm.
her parental, the supervisors, and their betrayal of her. Like it
Mm-hmm.
truly is everyone. And those are two women who raised her. And again, you can walk away from this book and think, wow, there's not a single woman at the end of this book. I don't feel that way. And I would
Yeah.
respect if anyone did. I could respect if someone walked away being like, wow, so every single woman like sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, but I felt like, if anything, I walked away from this book saying the connection between women, the found family between women, the found family between friends, that is the most important thing. And it never stopped being the most important thing. Even when it came to, the last like chapter or two summary with her and Arlo of like,
Mm-hmm.
he told me that that's when he loved me. It did not feel like she went running into his arms and was like, okay, you're my family now.
Right. Because the relationship between Isla and Arlo still feels tentative,
Yeah.
right? They've barely known each other, not even for 3 months or just barely 3 months. And that's not enough time to develop the found family when they were fighting against each other a lot of the time,
I'm
right?
over here thinking, wow, 3 months, that is like 5 years in book time. That is
It's granted very true, very true. But I don't feel like it's the end of their story and their
absolutely.
relationship building. I feel like it's just them embarking on a chapter.
Yeah, it felt like they were surprised. Like neither of them came to this conclusion in a happy way. You know what I mean? Like he
Right.
found out that he loved her when she almost died, and she didn't even know that she loved him until she chose him to save.
Right. And her magic was able to be accessed by him to save her. Right. That's the
Yeah.
big surprise of like, oh shit.
I guess I do love him. Like,
Do we love each other?
oh my god. Really? Yeah, like no one felt more surprised about their love than them. You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
even like Grimm and Aurora were both like, "Come on, let's do this, fall in love." And the people actually doing it are just like, "Oh, ew, okay. I guess we're here."
Okay. What does this mean for our future? I can't think past tomorrow. Let's
Yeah.
just focus on 1 hour at a time.
He's just over here saying, "I can make you a flower. Here you go. I love it." I let's one of the biggest things about the betrayal, like I want to talk about, is the fact that she always had power.
Mhm. I love the message of this because she allowed other people's opinions and perspectives,
Yep, yep.
like the narrative other people told her about herself, she allowed it to dictate her life. She never questioned it and she never tried to combat it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very real experience for a lot of women.
Yes, absolutely. You can definitely see this as a larger message of sometimes we are raised to be put in a place. And even though she
Mhm.
was raised to be a ruler, she was raised to feel weak. She was
Mhm.
raised to have the message of you do not have the power.
Mhm.
And that is something that I feel like no matter how supportive your parents are, no matter how loving, society kind of just puts us in a place. And even the best meaning parents, the ones who love you still will kind of put you in a place. And
Mhm.
it's hard, like kind of having to break out of those moments and realizing that, wow, it was within me to change the whole time. And that also means that her guardians chose to let her lands fail and die
Mhm.
rather than teaching her how to use her powers. They would rather everything die. Now, the ending of the story where everything was, I don't know, being revealed, one of the negative comments, and I can kind of agree, but I was like, let's talk this out, was the reveals at the end where it's like, okay, so it was just confusing. I don't have a problem with it, but people were like, it was hard to keep up with. So
Mhm.
we have the original betrayal with Aurora and Arlo's brother and
Yes.
Arlo's brother's wife.
Who was Aurora's best friend and Isla's ancestor.
Yes. Grimm, how is he related to the whole thing again with the original crew? He just was there.
He was alive at the time.
Yeah, yeah. So there wasn't anything going on there. Aurora killed the ancestor, Lark.
Mhm. Mhm.
She goes into hiding.
Mhm.
Decades, or however long passes, we have Isla, who is half shade person and half wildling.
Mhm.
And you're not supposed to be able to have powers from both,
Right.
but she does.
Yes.
Because she does, you have this other plot line where her guardians decide we can't let the world know about this.
I think Aurora tells them.
Well, Aurora does tell them, you got to hide it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Because that's where I was also confused. And then Grimm spotted Aurora a while ago.
Right. While she was traveling with her star stick.
Yeah. And then between the two of them, they agreed, okay, we have to break the curse.
Mhm.
But the way that we're going to break the curse is by using Isla.
Aurora and Grin.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that answered that. I mean, there's a lot of things in play. There was a lot of things in play.
Yeah, I can understand how the reveal at the end would be a negative for folks because it's so much information. And I do think that there are hints for some of this throughout.
Yeah, yeah.
However, it is a big dump. It's just like one twist after another slapping you in the face. It's like
It's a
bam,
colonic
bam,
of dumps.
bam.
It's just a dump after a dump. But I'm not mad at it. Like, I'm personally like, it was a lot of information. I think next time I go about this, I would prefer to read it because there was like when listening to it, I had to go back 30 seconds so many times, be like, okay, so who's doing what? What's going on? Who's on first? What's on
Yeah.
second? And it definitely was a little not convoluted, but it definitely required paying attention.
Yes. And when you're listening fast, that's hard.
Yeah, it was hard. We're still talking about betrayals. Let's talk about Arlo's betrayal because I was driving home from Carpinteria last night and that part happened. And as I was driving, my jaw dropped. Like, I don't know what I was expecting. Like, of course, I'm like, well, obviously he's going to betray her. And even then, I was like, he's good. He's not going to actually have betrayed her. There's a reason. I believe him. But when that happened, I love that there was zero frills about it. There was no fuss, no frills. It was just, by the way, she doesn't have any power.
Yeah. I love that there was no delay. I love that there was like it was an immediate consequence.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a bitch slap in the face because you've built up so much time, just like Isla has, learning to trust Arlo.
Yep.
And for him to turn around and do that, you're like,
Arlo.
no, well, it's more like, how did I not see the signs that this was going to happen?
Okay, you and I have two different thought processes. You were like, why I didn't see the signs. And I'm like, no, he's still good. Like, let's ignore the signs.
I did feel like he did it with purpose because
Yeah, okay.
Arlo always does things with purpose, but I guess I didn't expect him to use it as a tool.
Yeah. What I like about his betrayal and the reason why he did it, it continued to stay true to who he was.
Mhm.
Who he was is he wants to save Lightlark, right? He wants to save the kingdom. Yes, he needed access to, I don't know, the moon island, whatever that it's called. There was things that he needed, and there was only one way to go about it. And he needed her to have the real reaction. That's a trope we've seen a number of times. It's like, I
Yeah,
needed you
it's
to
true.
have the real reaction.
Yeah.
Still not mad at it. Like that's one of those tropes where I don't hate them. You know, I'm just like, yeah, give him the real reaction.
Yeah, I think it's because he's not morally gray in the way that Rhysand is to me.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, if you can consider Rhysand morally gray, but he's not an asshole necessarily in my mind. He has very strong morals and goals, and those never change.
yeah.
And that's why his betrayal was shocking in the moment, but I can understand it and forgive it. Whereas someone else, I'm like, you just did that to be an asshole.
Yeah, and especially where we find out how much he was protecting her, how
Mm-hmm.
much he was there. And, you know, he even makes a point where Esme, I think one of the maids, was able to go in and out. And he was like, how do you think she got to you safely? Like,
Mm.
it was not going to be just a betrayal without protection. And
Mm-hmm.
his promise of protection was always going to be there. And it continued to be there.
Yeah.
Oh, God, there's just so many. Sorry, I'm just realizing all the times that Arlo kept harping on, not harping, but questioning Isla of, are you sure you didn't know Grimm? Are you sure you didn't know
Yeah.
Grimm?
Yeah.
Not that he knew. I think there's a world where he didn't know that they knew each other, but just the fact that they seem so familiar with each other and talk about another big clue of, are you sure
Mm-hmm.
you guys aren't
Yep.
in this together?
Yep. 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 I mean, the clues are definitely there when you go back and think about it. I'm like, oh, yeah. I mean, I think she did a good job with breadcrumbs in a way where I didn't know they were breadcrumbs, right?
Can you give
Sometimes,
another example of a breadcrumb?
let me think of another good one. So there comes a point where Isla's annoyed that Celeste continues to be focused on the bond breaker.
Huh,
And
uh-huh.
she's like, the bond breaker's always been her idea. It's always been part of her plan.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
just needs to up on it. It's so dumb, blah, 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 blah. And then after Arlo's betrayal, she's like, I should never have doubted you. I should have been focused on the bond breaker. It was just, it's subtle enough
Yeah.
that you're like, I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I was expecting the bond breaker to be the last ditch magical effort. And then,
Mm-hmm.
because that's almost what you'd believe. I mean, it's what I did believe of, okay, so the bond breaker is going to come in last minute and they're going to solve it and they're going to do all these things. Then that would be like, they did it. Yay.
Only for it to actually do the exact opposite.
I know. I guess the other part where I was also a little confused was Isla's plan at the end of, I'm going to do the power and then I'm going to go on a run and I'm going to so was she planning on doing another curse, like put in another curse before she realized that Grimm and Aurora betrayed her, before all that stuff? And she went to Grimm and was like, run away with me. And she went to Celeste and was saying, trust me, right? Like there was a plan that she had in her head. I couldn't tell you what that plan was.
I think she was just going to execute the plan they had always planned on with the bond breaker.
Well, no, because she did have something, because there was something to do with the egg, the egg
Right.
power. This is where we're listening and having to listen quickly does not help because
Yeah.
this is one of those moments. And there was like a couple times throughout the book, like especially at the beginning when they were giving out the lore and they were doing the whole, here's the curse and this is what we're doing.
Mhm.
At one point, I was a couple chapters in and I thought, okay, I can either go back and re-listen to it or I can just hope I get there. Hope it
Yeah.
all kind of comes together.
Yeah. I will say and this is an observation from listening that I could be wrong about if I go back and read the book, which I probably will at some point.
Yeah.
I did feel like the narrative style was a little more focused on Isla telling us what she knew rather
Yes.
than observing things about the different, races, for lack of a better word, or
Uh-huh.
tribes, about the different isles, etc. It was more telling, not showing, I think, in a lot of areas. I don't feel like it detracted from the overall story, but I think it could have been elevated if it had been more showing rather than telling.
This wasn't in first person, right? This was in third person? Or was this in first person?
I think it was in first person. Wow, how can I not remember?
Because I've read 4 books this week. Hold on. Maybe it was in first person. Let me just play it real fast.
Isla didn't think the island would make it 10. Tara wouldn't
No.
make it 5.
All right, so it is in third
Third
person.
person, yeah.
And I think that this is one of those moments where I feel like a first person would have benefited it because we are so in her perspective and in her mind. And when we read first person, we expect them to not know things. I feel like when you're writing third person, the intent is to kind of drop things that the main character isn't aware of or doesn't necessarily pick up on. That's a me preference. But I know you're a fan of the third.
Yeah, but it read like a first person to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why I couldn't remember, because I felt like the narrative style was so closely aligned with Isla's thoughts and very much in her head. That's why it was very info dumpy in a lot of areas. It just read more like a first person
Yeah.
experience to me. Whereas with third person, I usually expect the narrative to be a little more pulled back from the main character's perspective, a little bit more omniscient. But I mean, I don't know that I have a critique. I'm just making an observation, and I wonder how
Observation and
different,
preferences. That's all.
and I don't know how different that would be if I read the book.
Same, agreed. When I go into third person, I do expect a little bit more information that the main character would not know. If that is not the case, I do enjoy the first person because then I feel very much in their head and I'm getting the information as they're getting it. And maybe going back and reading it, we could spot the moments where when we do get the info dumps on the curse is along blah, 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 and this is the history of blah, blah, blah. Maybe those are more palatable because it's in third person versus a first person. You'd be thinking, well, why are you thinking all this stuff? You were raised with it,
Right.
Maybe the info dump doesn't hurt as much when it is in third person.
I mean, I think that is true. In this moment, I still think it was a little too far on the telling pendulum than it was just showing pendulum.
Yeah.
What other comments do we have from our listeners?
All right, so let's go into positives. I liked the different world building. I thought it was very unique.
I did think the world itself and the different tribes and isles was very interesting. It
Yeah.
felt, would I say it went one step further or 2 steps farther than A Court of Thorns and Roses? I think the answer is yes.
Absolutely. I think so. And the reason why I would say that it goes one step farther is because not only are the different powers and the different lands and people unique, the curses were different for each of them. And I thought
Yeah.
that that was so unique of everyone is cursed their own special little way. The fact that Arlo can't come out at daytime, right? And then Grimm
Yeah.
can't come out at nighttime. And the wildlings will never be able to fall in love with someone. And like it's such a unique way of depicting a world. And that's one of those kind of that now we're getting a show not tell, right? It's what is it about this world and these lands and these people that makes this curse so bad for them? Well, of course, Arlo not being able to see the sun would be painful. He is gold. He is light.
Yeah.
Same thing with Grimm. he is nighttime, you know, and the wildlings, because part of their curse was that they couldn't love, right? Like they can't fall in love with someone. Well, for a very sensual and passionate group of people, of course, that would be a curse.
Well, and also it's so unique to the wildlings
Yeah.
that it should have also been another clue that the wildlings are at the core of this whole thing, right? Aurora has cursed her best friend's people that they can't fall in love
Oh my
because
God. You're right.
she was betrayed.
Oh my God.
Like, that's, I know.
That's so good.
Yeah, it is so good. And you take it for granted until you understand all the pieces.
I think if I was like betrayal, evil Jack, and I cursed you, I'd be like, I banish you from ever getting Korean barbecue again.
Or I would banish you from ever being able to eat sushi ever again.
We have to agree never to become evil enchantresses and curse one another. And like, that's the deal. All right. We just can't. But like, I didn't even put that together. That is a chills-worthy moment where, yeah, you're right. Like, she cursed this group of people, her best friend, of you will never be able to fall in love without both of you guys dying. Oh, and at one point, Isla even says that the moon people didn't even get the curses bad.
Yeah,
It
they
was
still
just the key
retained
players.
their.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ooh.
And it makes sense that she made it so that the Starlings couldn't live long, so that she could remain in hiding forever.
Yeah.
It's all really clever.
It is. What was Azul's curse? I can't remember what his land.
Skylings?
Yeah.
I actually don't remember.
This is where if I read the book, I'm sure I would sort of remember more.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Because, okay, so you had day, night, moon, sky, wildling, and stars. Okay, so there's a fair amount. Because at one point I'm like, wow, there's really nothing going on here. But Grimm isn't really a leader. Like, he's not really one of the Isles.
His nation is democratic and he's elected.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Poor guy. But then that's going to be clues that why he's going to, when we get in the second book, it's like, oh, but he's really a good guy because his nation loves him and he's been trying to take care of them. You know what I mean? I feel like a little kidnapping coming in the future, or
we'll see. The second book is called Nightbane.
Yeah, it's going to be 100% her falling back in love with him. Sweet torture. You know what's funny is that a number of the comments under the negatives is the love triangle. I believe one person even did love triangle and then the throwing up emoji.
Oh, see, I think maybe it's because we haven't really read a love triangle in so long that we're like, this is so refreshing.
I understand the stress of a love triangle, though. I do get stressed out with love triangles because, I don't want anyone hurt. I don't want anyone to... Amy is shaking her head. She was like, no, I feast upon their blood, heart eater.
I feast upon pain. I'm a wildling at heart.
Yeah.
No, for me, what is aggravating about love triangles is I have a preference and I'm wasting my time with this other dude. Like,
yeah, that's fair.
Hated New Moon because I hate Jacob.
New Moon, we're about to go on a Twilight land. New Moon, if Stephanie Meyer didn't have, I feel like, a more conservative background, I feel like Bella should have had sex with Jacob. And I know this is teenagers and everything, but like, I don't want smut. I don't want details. I think it just would have been a better book and love triangle if she had had sex for the first time. With Jacob. However, that then needs to remove the he falls in love with her daughter thing. So I know.
Tangent aside, like I understand why people don't love triangles because, like you and I said, a lot of people start out a love triangle knowing who they're rooting for.
Yes.
And any time spent with the other side of the triangle feels like a waste of time and is freaking annoying. So I get it. But for me, I genuinely didn't know who I wanted her to be with.
No, they're both like, I'm on board with both. Go for it. Have a little bit of something,
You're a wildling.
What if the guys kiss too? I don't know. Like, just go into the wildling self and everything. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about wildlings because I do love their land. I love that they're in tune with nature, and that then means that they're also in tune with their own bodies, their own selves, their own sexuality. Like, there's a lot to them, but there's also the concept of shaming because they're considered wildlings. They're wild.
Mhm.
They can't contain their own desires, their own
Right. Right.
bodies and everything. So there is a shame factor to that too, but at the same time, I'm just like, get it, girl.
Even though the other groups shame Isla and her people for their sensuality and basically treat them like succubuses
Yeah.
because they're temptresses, Isla doesn't feel shame about her background.
I love her lack of shame. I love the way that she talks about her predecessors. Like she calls them like, great seductresses,
Mm-hmm.
prolific. Like it's a badge of honor. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? The women who ruled before me fucked and they fucked hard. And
And they should be celebrated.
yeah, they should be celebrated. And it is great where you have a land that does not shame women, celebrates women, has women in
Mm-hmm.
power, and yet their ruler is someone who has been quarantined away so hard, she wasn't even allowed to be in a room with a man. It goes against her very nature as a wildling.
Right. Which should have been another clue.
Yeah, that her guardians are the ones who were just like, nope, we're going to go against everything that makes
Is in
you a
your
wildling.
nature.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's in your
exactly.
nature. We're going to hide you away. Don't even be near a man. Oh no. I just realized Isla probably because like it's implied that Isla's never had sex before, but now I'm realizing like when her and Arlo are, together, she like, or he's like taking off his shirt and he was like, you say you've never seen a body before. She's like, I'm not answering this question. He knows when I'm
Yeah.
lying. Versus now we realize there was a year and we know that there are these moments, these memories that she did have. That adds another layer of betrayal.
Yep. Yep.
Because now she's realizing that she has had sex before.
And those memories were taken away.
Yeah. The reason why I'm going to like come back to the whole sex and the reason why it matters so much. I mean, one, it's like her body and you're taking away her and everything. But two, how much in that moment when Isla had sex with Grimm before her memories were taken away, did she feel like she was truly a wildling at that point? Where
Mm-hmm.
she didn't feel separate, where she felt like, wow, I am now like my predecessors. I am in charge of my own body now.
It was probably a very empowering moment for her.
Yes.
And that is taken away.
Yeah.
And then for her to know it's been taken away and she can't remember it is a violation of her body in a lot of ways, too. So they've taken away her power and her knowledge that she was able to and chose to grasp it.
Because now there's this other layer where if she doesn't remember what happened, but she knows that like her body has had this experience, when she eventually has sex with Arlo for the first time, she's having sex for the first time again, but
Mm-hmm.
isn't. And that's such a
Mindfuck.
mind fucking, taking away something from her, taking away a lot of things from her. But that makes
Yeah.
Grimm even more, which makes the whole process even more painful, which I love. Yes. Feast upon your tears.
But I mean, for me, it really makes it hard for Grimm to come back from that, in
Which
my
is why
opinion.
I know, which is why the second book is going to be so good because it's going to make us love him so much. Because a couple of the pros that people said what they did like was Grimm hearts.
Did like Grimm. I mean, let's ignore the fact that he took away her memories. There's an undeniable attraction between the two.
Yeah, yeah.
He is a woman's man. Like he says romantic things. You want him to sweep you off your feet.
He goes from calling her heart eater to just heart.
Heart. I know. It's so cute.
Someone says, I love the triangles. It was well done, especially in Nightbane. I was genuinely torn. Ah.
Oh.
I'm excited. I love the books that were, that are continued series. Someone wrote to us and said, hey, can you because last in the summer book club, we did a whole lot of first books that weren't complete. And someone was like, please don't do that again. And I'm like, we'll try. So this is one where I'm like, oh yes, another one that the other two are out and it's ready. And I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to look to see who's who, like who's, I don't know how I would feel. Does someone have to die? Is that how it is? Like,
No, it can be a wide choose.
no, I
Because
agree. She
remember,
needs both. She gets both.
the world was created by day, night, and wildlings.
Nothing would make me happier than a why choose. I think they all take a nice, lovely vacation to Paris. I think that they
I
some
think they all
people
need to take a bath together.
some people are going to be like, "What are they? She's talking about Paris." Because they're going to go sightseeing. They're going to go to different places like the Eiffel Tower. And then people are still going to be, "What does that mean?" Like my one cousin, I told her about it. She had no idea what that meant. And then I had to like show her a photo and she was like, "What?"
Be careful what you search on Google, folks.
Yeah, definitely be careful. Even beyond the like smutty stuff, I love the potential love between the two of them, between all three of
Mhm.
them, that
Mhm.
I think we can find peace amongst all three of them. I think we
I
can have
know.
a good schedule going here.
I hope people don't spoil it for us. I really want to go
I
and
know.
read.
There's so many books to read now. It's
I know, I know, I know.
Trial of the Sun Queen, Spark of the Everflame, More
Lightlark.
Guild. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amy's just kind of sitting here absorbing her TBR.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always been a don't have a TBR person and just read things as they come into my life. And that's why I resist things so hard when Jack recommends things because I'm like, I don't want to have a TBR. I'll just get to it when I feel like it.
Oh,
But
the
now I have
truth.
a TBR.
Ah, sucker.
It hurts my heart.
The good news is that we're going to be so far ahead on recording that you'll have books like we're going to be still doing Throne of Glass and stuff, but that's like a reading. You're going to have books to commute to.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm going to demolish so many of these series so fast.
It's going to go so fast.
Let's talk about the trials.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I liked this idea of trials not being like set in the same trials used from year to year. Think of Serpents and the Wings of Night.
Yeah, yeah.
Where Aurea was able to study and look at all the patterns. And so she could kind of anticipate what may or may not be coming. I liked that each trial in Lightlark was determined by each ruler.
Yes.
And that they could shape it to anyone's advantage or disadvantage. I thought that was a nice little spin on the idea of like a trial or a competition.
Yeah, and I think what I also loved about it is how at the core, in theory, each trial is about why they should survive. What
Mm-hmm.
is it that their kingdom provides?
Mm-hmm.
What is it about them as a ruler that should matter? And I really enjoyed that quite a bit. I also enjoyed that there was a balance between when people were allowed to kill, like when the leaders were allowed to kill each other versus when they weren't
Mm-hmm.
allowed. Like you have 50 days to hear them out. You have 50 days that you are forced to listen and compete and to see what's going on. After that, it's fair game.
Good luck.
Yeah. I thought it was a unique perspective on trials because, like we've talked about before, concept of trials, they're not new. We have so many different variations and versions of them. But what does a trial look like when it's amongst rulers,
Mm-hmm.
amongst leaders, amongst people who it's not like they're not out there fighting one another. It's a matter of wits, right? And
Mm-hmm.
some stamina, some strength, but ultimately wits. Yeah.
Yeah, ultimately wits and showcasing an entire nation and why it's valuable to the ecosystem. Like that's
That's hard.
unique.
That's unique. It's unique. It's hard. It's very it's very good. And a lot of these ones I'm going to think about like just kind of that stick with me. Like the one where Arlo's trial was tell me your truth.
Yeah.
And he was willing to win by divulging that he's going to die. Like
Yeah.
that was a great moment. Or
Yeah.
what was another one where facing your greatest fear in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
That was a really good one. Can you remind me what was Isla's trial?
Great question. So Grimm's trial was combat.
Yep.
Maybe it was Azul, show your power.
Yeah, and that's where she threw the knives at
Right.
Arlo, which was such a good move.
Yeah. Arlo's was tell me your secret. Celeste was the mirror, face your darkest fear. What is Isla's?
I wonder if what the greater meeting between Celeste, Aurora choosing face your greatest fears. Like that feels like a very rich moment of like why would someone who's betraying everyone or betraying Isla choose the face your greatest fears? What was Isla's? I remember her being proud of herself. Okay,
I'm gonna
look it up.
Google it.
Yeah, you Google it, I'll Google it. Because there was one where they had to say what they bring to the table.
Right. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Moonling was like a maze.
Was Moonlight Maze? Damn. Okay. Well, maybe someone could send us. I wanted to say hers were like more on the simple side.
Yeah, it was. It was basically, it was tell this crowd what your nation
Could bring. Okay,
will
so
bring.
that was hers. Like, what
Yeah.
can your nation bring?
Right. And that's when Cleo says, we've got ships.
Yeah.
And everyone's like,
Ships! Anything but ships!
Well, yeah, and then Isla puts her arm in the fire.
Right,
and then
right.
shows their healing tonics.
Oh, that was gonna bug us forever.
Yeah, that really was. Dug deep.
Yeah, you did. I'm proud of you. Everything is a blur. Like, my brain is mush after this week because I also needed some intense palate cleanser in between Once Upon a Broken Heart. I need to get through that. So I like power read some, nice cleansing books about
Stalker romances.
Yeah, stalker romances. Something to like, dip. It's like wasabi or not wasabi, ginger. You got to cleanse your palate.
Yeah.
With a stalker romance. That's all. That's all a girl needs. Yeah, overall, very happy with this book. I thought that the themes are pretty good with it. It felt like definitely more about than love or just triangle. Not mad if that's what one of the themes is for the second book, like, bring on that love romance. I personally feel like in books, you don't see depictions of people falling in love. And I think that seeing Arlo and Isla falling in love over the course of 3 months was a very realistic.
Yeah.
I think people can fall in love in 3 months. Now, is that enough for them to trust each other completely? No. But like, I feel like their falling in love story was one of the more realistic ones I've seen in books.
I completely agree. At the end of the book, I was like, are they really in love? Because it doesn't look like love stories in other books. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, no, they truly showed the growing affection and care for each other in a way that is not manipulated by fated mates.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. It also, it felt somewhere between a choice and not a choice, I mean, isn't that like part of love, right? Like, you can't be like, and now I'm going to fall in love with you. But at the same time, there was a choice to continue helping one another, to save one another. There was moments of vulnerability on both parts. Like, both of them fell asleep on each other's legs, and they saved one another. Like, that's why Arlo's betrayal, or seems like betrayal, was so hard, because Isla kept going through all the moments in her head thinking, but what about this? Like, I thought we had gone past that. I thought we're okay. The way that she flicks his crown every single time, and then he flicks her crown and dents it, and then at the end he puts the crown on her. Yeah. I love it. It was really sweet. Yeah, I felt like it was somewhere between a sweet love story and not. You know what I mean? Like, there's just a lot of, but then at the same time, when we got grim, I was like, I'm not mad at this either.
I look forward to reading the rest, and that's all I got.
That's all we got. All right, another win for book club, whether anyone else agrees with it or not. And I think what helps is that we have zero memory of the marketing, because that was one of the negative comments, is that someone wrote too much marketing for this. It's a 3-star for me. That's what someone else wrote. So, I mean, go into it blindly, don't know anything about it. You're going to have a great time.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Book Talk for Book Talk with Jack and Amy. We encourage you to rate and subscribe to our show on your preferred podcast listening platform. Next week, we'll be taking just a 1-week break from book club for the holiday season. Stick around for some special mini episodes next week, and we'll be back with One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig on January 7th.
We would love to hear your thoughts based on today's conversation. If you'd like to submit your take on any of the books we plan to discuss later this winter, please be sure to follow us on Instagram, where we ask for listener submissions.
If you're enjoying the podcast, please visit our website, booktalkforbooktalk.com, to view our latest merch and learn about supporting the show through Patreon or Venmo. You can follow us on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube at the handle Book Talk for Book Talk, but the best way to support the show, pretty please, is by sharing on social and with your friends. Bye.
Bye. I'm gonna put this on Do Not Disturb.
Right, Do Not Disturb. That's important. Leave me be, people. Leave me be. It's just my mom.
I know, it's my family group chat is blowing up right now.
Really? Okay. I forgot how to podcast. Even though we recorded yesterday. I forgot her name.
Isla.
Isla, thank you. I finished this last night.